So yeah, not really sure how I'm going to do this whole LP thing. I may end up using a bunch of screenshots for the cutscenes and stuff like that, since I'm not sure how I'd feel about talking over them, or if people want to see that. And I'm probably a really boring reader for those things. And, I don't know, I'm going to have to record them anyway because of the way my capture card works, but yeah, I don't want to stop and start and stop and start, stuff like that. So I'll probably end up uploading videos of them somewhere, like non-commentary and stuff. But, yeah, don't know how that's going to go. And as far as the dungeons go, I have a feeling I might want to edit out a bunch of these random enemy encounters that are all over the place. I have a feeling this is going to get very old very fast. And that way I can give a bit more emphasis on sort of the storyline and showing the general layout of the dungeon and showing like boss strategies and shit like that, or like really tough enemy strategies like that Mama Nugget a while back, stuff like that. So I have a feeling I may end up doing that at some point. I'm not sure. If you have some feedback on this and all that, feel free to, you know, bitch and moan or whatever. Anything that makes this more watchable is good for me. So feel free to complain and whatever. I really hate the way the AP functions in this game. A lot of the enemies can only be attacked like up close because the only characters we have right now can only attack like in close range. But some of the enemies have ranged attacks like these dukes that can actually knock you back further, and walking around uses up AP, which we need to attack, especially because our regular abilities that we have right now are really fucking weak. Except Twin Wake, which uses a shitload of AP, and only Bosch can use that. It really fucking annoys me. This dungeon can just go fuck itself so fucking thoroughly. You have no idea. These fucking pig motherfuckers. Just really hate them. Fortunately, this is one of the regular ones without the long range stuff. Oh, by the way, if you don't use up all of your AP on one turn, then you stockpile it for the next turn. It's very useful if you want to set up like really huge combos or attack all at once. It's also pretty useful if you want to play a little bit defensively and do some sort of unique weird shit. It's going to come up at some point, then I'm going to like start exploiting that quite a bit. Because it's very useful, especially once you start filling up those skill slots. We killed everything in this room, which means the doors are all unlocked. And we also got a treasure key and the kick skill. This motherfucking skill right here, get it as soon as possible, which is right there. It's guaranteed to be in that chest. Fucking get it, equip it, use it, love it. It is fucking awesome. It might not sound very good. It only does like 75% damage or something like that. And it has a low critical hit rate or something like that. I don't know. I wasn't paying too much attention to the skill when it popped up. But from a tactical standpoint, it is the best fucking skill you're going to have for quite a while. And you're going to see me exploit the fuck out of it in some cases. In fact, very soon I'm going to exploit the fuck out of it. This chick right here, you've been seeing her all over the place in this place. Really, she's just there to give you various hints on how to play the game. And here we get this hallway of sliding doors that I decided to walk through instead of run through. Just because it makes me feel like a badass to watch those sliding doors pop open. But don't run too fast, otherwise you might accidentally run into that nugget and get it a first strike on you. Instead, you should just kick it with Bosch. Oh Bosch, you dick. You kick animals all over the place. You just fucking kick things. Like that, you jerk. I bet Bosch kicks puppies. Bosch probably loves to kick puppies. And here we have the lift. And we are finally, thank fucking God, out of the sewers. And we're at Approach South, which is inside the Biocore building. Finally, we're out of the sort of very early part of the intro. Although there's still a bunch of a dungeon to come along. And here we have a semi-important cutscene at the Genic processor, which is 10-20 meters below ground level. The long wait is over. the long wait for decent abilities and some actual plot progression. We have this dragon nailed to the wall. It's religious, at last. Yes, this is a dragon. This series has like hardcore fucking dragons. They aren't the bitch dragons you tend to see a lot. You have awakened. As you can see, he is fucking trashed and pretty much dead. My dying dream. Let us go, my little friend. Say hello to my little friend. He's obviously talking to Ryu. Once again, to the sky. Yeah, we're underground, the sky's been mentioned, and people don't know what the sky looks like. I'm guessing that moving to this surface is going to be a major plot point. Well, actually, I'm not guessing. I already know. I've completed this game before. Ryu. Well, checking his stuff to make sure Bosch didn't steal anything, or also to make sure that Bosch didn't actually rape him while he was out. Bosch? You okay? You keeled over all of a sudden. I fell over? Come on. Get it together. Let's go. Ryu, seemingly sporting the ponytail. Not a look many men can pull off, but seemingly he does it pretty well. So we were in that hallway this whole time. But wouldn't you know it, the Genic processor we saw in that dream was right through that door. And I'm not sure how well you can see it, but there's skeletons tied up all over the place, and there's like these steel girders and shit. And at the far wall, there's that dragon from the dream sequence. Nailed to the wall. Whoa, what's that? Wide-eyed amazement. We don't have records of any Genics this big. Maybe it's some kind of experiment. What, you scared, Ryu? It's dead already. It won't bite. Let's finish up this mission. Either that or face the wrath of Captain Zeno. Haha. Ryu is of course our mostly silent protagonist. Mostly silent, he does have a couple lines. Ojin. Russian for one, if I'm not mistaken. Not that that's especially important, but, you know, useless trivia. You can kind of explore this area a little bit. Yes, that is our first glimpse of a dragon, Ojin. He's nailed to the wall, he's dead, and he's been split in two. You kind of can't see it too well, but he's missing everything from the waist down. And I'm guessing this is blood all over the place. There's a bunch of dead humans all over the fucking joint. He's nailed to the wall, and various shit like that. So, yeah, obviously he's dead. But Ryu was hearing him in his dreams. And also, Ryu kind of heard him earlier on in the game, I guess. Yeah, he was the narrator from the opening. Hey, how you doing? You think? Yeah, she's explaining the escape feature. This is how you run from battles. And now we have to fight our way through the Biocore labs. The Genic accumulator. This is where they accumulate Genics. Genics being monsters, of course there's going to be a couple. There's a telecoder here, and it's the earliest point where I actually recommend saving. Normally I wouldn't save here, of course, but this being an LP, I don't want to redo that dungeon again, so saving anyway, just for the hell of it, just in case things go wrong. At which point I would just have to, you know, cut the video there and show a clean run where I actually got through this next area. But no, it's not very hard. You could get through here pretty easily without much incident. And fortunately I do have an extra save token, so it's no big loss if I use that. Bunch of party experience points. So yeah, the Breath of Fire series, it started way back on the Super Nintendo. It kind of started off as a sort of Dragon Warrior, possibly Final Fantasy, sort of fantasy RPG rip-off type thing. It was actually pretty good. The thing about Capcom's games is that even though they don't really have a whole lot of original ideas, or they don't seem to really invent a whole lot of genres, they always seem to manage to bring something really interesting into them when they sort of get into that. Like, they're never really pioneering anything, but they always seem to be the ones that perfect something. With the Breath of Fire series, as far as that goes, maybe not the best example to use, but even though it had like a really basic and largely ripped off story, it just didn't like feel very original. It was really cliche and all that stuff. It still managed to be pretty good, and the way that the main character could transform into different dragons and stuff like that, it was pretty good. It was a really nice fantasy game, probably one of the better ones on the Super Nintendo for that matter. And it got a couple sequels. Out of all of them, I think I most recommend 2, which, well, I guess I have a bit of a soft spot for 2. Maybe a bit too much of a soft spot. But there's a bunch of like things between all of them that kind of sort of work together. There's a lot of characters that show up in every game, or almost every game. Ryu is one of them. He's always the main character. He's always this blue-haired soldier type person. He has been a ranger at times, so there's that as well. He's always noted as being somebody that has the ability to turn into a dragon as well. So at some point, obviously, our protagonist is going to get an ability similar to that. And stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty much the way that works. Dragon Quarter is kind of an unusual thing. They changed up a lot of the gameplay. They moved away from fantasy and into a science fiction type setting. But I feel it was like a very good change for the better. Like, the battle system is completely different. It's a much more original idea than the sort of turn-based type thing they were going for the longest time. Like, they were using that up until like the PS1 entry, which was the 4th Breath of Fire game. And yeah, this new PETS system, I think that's the most ridiculous acronym ever, by the way. PETS system, it just sounds so fucking stupid. Was a really nice change, and the SOL system, I can kind of see why people wouldn't like it and why it would really piss off a lot of people. But I thought it was a good idea. I thought it added a lot of replay value without making the game exceptionally long. It did a lot of nice things. I may consider Dragon Quarter actually to be my favorite Breath of Fire game. Seemingly, Ivolt agrees with that assumption right there. He has recommended it as his favorite game, despite the fact that this may actually be the game that sort of brought an end to the Breath of Fire series. This game didn't do very well as far as sales go. Right there, that's a Juju. It increases your magic stat by 1 permanently, but I'm not using it right now. There's a magic using character that I'm going to use it on very soon. Yeah, this game didn't do very well. There was a lot of competition from other groups and stuff. And since this game didn't do very well, they didn't really plan to do a 6th Breath of Fire game. Which means that this game kind of ended things. Which is sad, because I think they really nailed a lot of things. And they kind of moved in an interesting direction. The storyline is certainly very unique and very much unlike the earlier stuff they were doing. Which you wouldn't exactly find out of place in a lot of other games, really. Yeah. I kind of like the Sol system. I'll explain that at some point, I guess. Because it's a very, very lengthy process to explain that fucking thing. It's essentially like New Game Plus, except you can use it at any point in time to just go back to the beginning. Except there's benefits of doing that, but there's also penalties for doing that, so it could get very unusual. This game is extremely hard, and it can kind of be very difficult to get through on your first try. I'm trying to do this here. I'm pretty familiar with the game and know how stuff works and all that. And it's certainly possible to get through on your first try, but this game kind of assumes that you're going to go back to the beginning at least once, and that you may kind of improve yourself a little bit with the party experience and stuff like that. But I'm not going to try to rely on that. I'm just going to make things hard on myself.